What's up? What's good? What is cracking, people? Welcome to my live stream. I am the actual King Smith because my name is actually King Smith. And welcome to my Tuesday night vlog. This is vlog number 26, and it is titled "The Talk About the Passport Bros is All Wrong." All right, it is all wrong. So let's talk about it. Before I get into tonight's vlog, what are we doing here? Where are we streaming at? We are streaming across multiple platforms. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, which I just recently got some love on last night, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Most of my handles are at the actual King Smith or actual King Smith. And if you want to hook up on any of my social medias, look, I got all them joints. And a link is in the link tree, which is in the description on YouTube and Facebook. All right. I got some people to acknowledge real quick before I get into my monologue. First of all, good evening to Michelle Early. Salute to you. And Greek Pete is in the building. Peter Lyritz. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Hold on. All right. My soundboard is not working. You know what? Whatever. Soundboard ain't working today. So it is what it is. Salute to you. And we got Ricky Webster in the building. He said, "What up, big bro?" And hey, good lady to Michelle. Hey, y'all. All right. Check this out. Let's get into it. There's been a lot of talk about this group called the Passport Bros, right? And when you hear about it, okay, Passport Bros, what does it sound like? I'll tell you from my experience that I am a part of the Passport Bros community, okay? And essentially, in my words, the Passport Bros is an online community that shares travel advice and travel tips to other people, essentially. Now, in the US, when people say bros or the bros, they're typically talking about people of color. And one of the things that I want to highlight with that is this: you typically, when you're doing international travels, don't see a lot of, and I'm going to speak specifically about Black American men traveling internationally or in large groups. You can even say Black American women for that, standpoint as well. Why is that? Okay. I've got my reasons, and we are going to talk about them. Make sure that you mash that like button as you come into the building, and we're going to get started. So for the people who are watching, raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat if you are actively watching or you're catching this on the replay, and let me know if you have a passport. Okay. Let me know if you have a passport. Okay. Now, what is a passport? Plain and simple, a passport is, how would I say this? A visa that allows you to enter and exit another country. To apply for a passport in the US, it is plain and simple. you would go to travel.state.gov, which I'm going to put in the link here, and essentially advise you to go to travel.state.gov to check it out, or whatever governing agency issues passports in your country, because we got international watchers over here. I don't know if y'all know that. Okay. So taking a look up in the chat, Michelle Early put a 1 stating that she has a passport. And Ricky Webster also stated that he's got a passport as well. All right. So there's the passports and the passport cards. And essentially, look, to put it in plain English, if I want to get out and fly from the United States to Germany, it's not as simple as getting in my car or catching a flight domestically from Maryland to Alabama. All right. There's visa entry requirements that each country establishes. Now, if you're a criminal, it's harder to just move between countries and travel like that. Okay. Countries don't typically issue visas for people that have felonies or have some kind of extensive criminal history into their country. Now, there are places that do, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay. So at the basic form, that's all a passport is. There's nothing mystical about it. You can apply for one. It's relatively easy and pain-free unless something comes back in your background that would restrict you from having one. Okay. So that's the first process. That's essentially what it is. It's not that costly. It is paperwork, spending a fee, taking a picture. Those are the main things. Okay. The hardest part about it, as many people can tell you, is doing the paperwork. Because depending on if it's your first one or not, what your history is, having to recall all of the places that you live. It's easier to get one when you're younger and you really haven't lived life. It's a whole lot easier to get one versus when you're older and now you're having to get certain information about your own background. And if you don't keep good records, that can be difficult, but it doesn't take long. Okay. And you could get one issued to you. When I applied for mine post-military, which I have to kind of differentiate that, which I'll talk about later. Post-military, it took me about 3 months from the time that I applied and got mine from the time that it came in the mail. All right. Now, another important factor about that is this. If you want to plan to travel someplace, I'd advise you to make sure that you've got your passport squared away early. And if you have one currently, I would advise that you make sure that it's not going to expire while you're out on your trip. Okay. So that's the mystical stuff behind what a passport is. It's just a document issued by your country that allows you to travel to other places or countries as long as you meet their visa entry and exit requirements. Lately, there's been a movement of people called the Passport Bros that, for a lot of different reasons, have made the news in both good and bad ways. If you've been following my vlogs from the first one to this one, you will have heard me say that I encourage everybody to get out and travel. Why though? Why do I encourage people to get out and travel? Before I get into the reasons, I have to give you a background so you can understand who I am. Okay. My travels primarily came from the military. I enlisted when I was 18 and I was in an aviation job. I was an in-flight refueler on the KC-135. It's commonly called the boom operator. When I enlisted, I didn't even know that airplanes could refuel other airplanes in the air. All right. Did not know that that was a thing. Yet I told the recruiter, hey, I want a job that will allow me to travel and see the world. I scored high enough on the ASVAB to be able to essentially pick my job, and everything aligned for me that I picked a job that allowed me to see like 20 plus countries. Okay. And one of the great parts about that is when I'm on the ground, because my job is primarily refueling in the air, I had a chance to experience various cultures and places in my young 20s that I would not have had the opportunity to experience on my own. I didn't come from a family of wealth. Okay. Born and raised in Alabama. Hey, Ricky, my family are from Anniston, bruh. That's not too far, man. If you down to link up, man, let me know. And the next time that I'm out towards Alabama, man, I'll definitely shoot out the B-Ham and chop it up with you, brother. But my travels came from the military. Now, that was a bonus for me because when you're in the military, you have standards and ways that you're taught to act. Plain and simple, they tell you what to do and what not to do. And traveling on a military visa is a little bit different. Things are a little bit more stricter for you because now you're kind of worried on two fronts about doing the wrong thing, right? So if you're traveling to a country on military orders and you act wrong, okay, you're causing a bit of a political incident as well as jeopardizing your own job. And I didn't want anything to be jeopardizing my job. Now, when I traveled, I had a lot of fun at every place that I went to. I was welcomed. Okay. I was welcomed as a guy for reasons that I'm going to talk about later on and why people have the passport bros thing wrong. All right. They just simply have it wrong. So, one of the first things that people have wrong is that people are traveling to get women and experience or do sex tourism. People have already been doing that. All right. Let me just say it like that. There it is. There's my soundboard. People have already been doing that. Quite frankly, sex tourism in certain countries and in certain places has already been happening. It's already been prevalent. There's a lot more European people that do it, but people don't want to talk about it. Okay. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it. People have been doing that for centuries. It's not some revelation that people are just traveling for sex tourism because they don't have game or they can't get any in the States, yada, yada. And over here on my channel, I'm going to be frank as well and say that with the amount of availability of how do I say this right? Hot pockets, so to speak. If sex is all you're aiming after, you can get that here in the States. You can travel to Vegas. There's a lot of online websites. It's not like it's that hard, even if you don't have game. Gotta have a little money, but they don't call tricking, or I'm sorry, being a, can I say prostitute? Well, I just said it. They don't call being a prostitute the oldest profession in the world for no reason. People won't talk about this stuff, but I'm not here to pull punches on certain topics and be easy about what this narrative is. For the most part, like I said, people are traveling and getting the opportunities to experience other cultures. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. That's one of the top reasons. And one of the reasons why other people are encouraging travel to other places is to experience those other cultures. I'm going to tell you right now, had I not been in the military and did my travels in the military, there's no way that I would have been able to have been to 20 plus different countries because traveling's expensive. That's one of the barriers to international travel. A flight from DC to Japan is about 1600 minimum. Okay. 1600 minimum. So if you're talking about just getting on the plane for the travel part, that's 1600 minimum. When the average income in the US, the last that I checked, was about 55,000, and that's before tax. And when you look at the price of eggs and a mortgage or a rent now, you have to have your budgetary issues tight to be able to afford international travel. All right. And I listed Japan just because I plan on traveling to Japan and Okinawa, which is a place that I lived for 3 years. I want to go and take my kid back to where she was born. My daughter's not like an Okinawan, but I was stationed there with my ex-wife when my kid was born there. So when I'm looking at the budget just to travel, and you're talking 1,500 at the minimum for 2 tickets, that's 3 grand right there gone just to travel to get there. Okay. And I made good money, but I'm not going to talk about exactly how much I made because your boy got child support payments. All right. But something that I am encouraged about is this. And I see some questions in the chat, and I'm going to get to those here in a minute. One of the things that's encouraging me is if you take a look at this screen, and I'm going to make it bigger, that's what she said. The issuance of passports and passport cards since COVID has essentially gone up. The COVID year killed all travel. And I need to make this a little bit bigger, I can see. That's what she said again. The issuance of passports since COVID have gone up. Matter of fact, it's gone up a lot. And I think part of that is the accessibility to travel and just getting out the word in general is a lot greater. Okay. But there's been more issuance of passports and passport cards in 2022. I think that was the record since it was reported here, and this is on travel.state.gov's website itself. Okay. It barely beat out 2017. Now, what happened in 2017? That was a huge jump between 2016 and 2017 as well. You got to understand what was going on in the economy at the time to kind of further analyze this kind of stuff. All right. So 2020 had to drop off because of COVID. And then boom, you had a lot of people moving in 2022. And that was because people were demystifying travel. There was a question in the chat, and I want to highlight it here. Michelle asks, where did the concept of traveling for sex come from? And that she asked because STDs and STIs are a real thing, like really real. And are y'all screening and testing yourself? Okay, where did the concept of traveling for sex come from? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know the history behind it. I can't really speak on it without me just saying that it's pure speculation. Okay. I think that in developed countries, if you go to less developed countries, it's almost kind of understood that the hot pocket is a globally accepted form of currency. I laugh, but think about that. Think about that and tell me if I'm wrong. When you have ladies that are offering police officers the kitty cat to keep from getting arrested or going to jail because they're getting pulled over and arrested under the suspicion of a DUI, that tells you right there that certain genders understand the value of what they have and how people will pay for it. Plain and simple. Let's just be plain and simple about that. Okay? So traveling for sex in the United States, while it can happen, it's not as prevalent as some countries is. I mean, if you look at the GDP of certain countries, their biggest gross domestic product is tourism. I'm not saying sex tourism, but it's just tourism in general. Okay. And if there's an abundance of availability, it's going to happen. Plain and simple. People can travel to Vegas for sex. It can happen. Okay. Let me take a look at some of these other comments before I get to my next point. Michelle said that her passport expired in 2018 and she renewed it in March 2020 before the shutdown. You did that just in time. However, because of the shutdown, you didn't get it until July of that year. But it was still good that you did it, because even if you weren't planning on traveling, because a lot of countries, when COVID and stuff happened, you couldn't go in and out of a lot of countries, to put it simple. Or even if you got out the country, there wasn't a good chance, depending on where you went, that you was going to be able to get back in this mud, right? So at least staying on top of it and being proactive was definitely important. All right. And look, I talked about this the other day. There's a strain of gonorrhea that is apparently not resistant to current medicine right now. So before I get to my next point, there's a lot of information that you can get on travel.state.gov. It's not just passport stuff. Okay. I'm going to add this back to the stream. If you go up here and you go to US passports, there's a lot of help around passports and things like that. And the other thing that I want to put up here, travel advisories. If you're going to travel, okay, it's best to understand what countries you still have to have COVID tests for. All right. And there's different travel advisories that will pop up as well. But if you're going to go to, like, here, I'm going to put in here Ghana. I plan on taking a trip to Ghana within the next 2 years. So what does it say about Ghana? Ghana, level 2, exercise, increase caution. All right. This is typical for most places that may have certain areas, right, that they'll want to highlight due to civil unrest. And they'll just put, I'll call them notices. If you read right here, it says exercise extreme caution in Ghana due to crime. Well, hell, that's what I tell you if you went down to Baltimore. Some areas have increased risk. Read the travel advisory. So it says exercise increased caution in these areas. I've never been to Ghana, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if I'm being suggested to travel to any of these areas, I'm going to stay away from it. And it gives you a summary, essentially, of what could occur in the country in general. All right. So that's Ghana. Let's take a look at a country that might have a higher rate. Okay. So let's go back here to international travel. And I'm going to click on where'd the travel advisory go? See, I messed up already. Let's do this again. Oh, I forgot that because of the screen being smaller, it's going to show up weird. Jill says, stop talking about her city. All right. So if you look at places like Ukraine, level 4, do not travel. And it says right here, do not travel to Ukraine due to Russia's full-scale invasion. The Department of State continues to advise U.S. citizens not to travel to Ukraine due to the active armed conflict. Okay. And there's a whole lot that you can get in here and read that they'll tell you why you shouldn't go there. Plain and simple. So before you go, this website right here, travel.state.gov, is a wealth of information. If you're not coming in here, applying for the STEP program, doing various different things, you can get your butt in a pickle for not doing simple research. Pete says, I know in Greece you have to have a license and get shaken down weekly. Wow, that's interesting. That is interesting. And what Michelle early said highlights what I also talked about as well. Please don't just pick a place to visit without doing your homework. If you're deciding to go places because the passport bros told you to go to a place, but you didn't do your own research, you've sorely been mistaken. Prostitution is very legal and widely accepted in some countries. Yes, yes, it is. All right. Yes, it is. Hey, Baltimore is her city. Baltimore. She's the one that taught me how to properly say that because I would say it like Baltimore. Okay. So I'm going to play this video here. This is Fox 26, Isaiah Factor Uncensored. And look, fair use, Fox. All right. Don't clip my stream for this, but I want to play portions of this to debunk some things that has recently been said about the passport bros. Wow. Okay. So let's stop right there. Oh, no audio? Doggone it. Hold on. Let's bring that back. All right. That's on me. Let's remove this. Let's see. Stop screen. Let's try this one more again. All right. Let's bring this back up. Let me know if the audio is
In your
playing.
travel itinerary. It's one of the travel goals for a community called the Passport Bros, meaning brothers. It's a traveling community of upwardly mobile black men. Some are accused of going around the world
Okay.
searching
Thank you.
for a more traditional and submissive wife. But is it all about sex and just a girlfriend for hire and then return home to humiliate black women in America?
Okay. So did you hear how he set that up? Is it all about men traveling for sex and getting a girlfriend in another country only to come back and humiliate black women in America? Let's talk about that real quick. There's a narrative going around, okay, that black women aren't marriageable. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. I'm only saying that because depending on what you listen to, you may not hear this stuff. I do a lot of other things around dating and relationships and things of that nature, and it's what's being talked about. Okay. And the fact that the narrative is that there's more black men traveling, they're not traveling because they can't find black women in America. I can say that the narrative could be, and I would agree with this, is that black men are traveling because they can't find marriageable women in America. But that's another story.
That's the controversy that we're dealing with. One of its members, Austin Holman, is apologizing for comments that he made about Brazilian women. Take a listen.
Okay. So Austin Holman is a young 23-year-old male in the US that has highlighted vlogs and things of his travels to various places. He was recently in Brazil, I think, and he even took the time to learn the Portuguese language. That's another positive thing about getting out and traveling. It's educating more people about other cultures and even getting people to learn another language. I'm attempting to learn Spanish, but your boy's not doing too hot. All right. But I'm trying. But part of that is I want to be able to travel more and get to some of these other places and interact with the locals, and knowing their language is one of the ways to be accepted. Quite frankly, as long as you understand and respect the cultures, I found that people will treat you like family when you go into some of these other places. Before I play the video, Michelle early said something here. She hates the narrative of black women not being marriageable, and that as a black woman with many positive things, I hate to hear that we aren't marriage material. And Ricky Webster said that he's heard that before as well. Okay.
What I meant by when I said that Brazilian women are easy, and I shouldn't use the word easy. I know that now. I know that now. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is, for a man that's well mannered, well dressed, that has put in the effort to raise himself, he will have a easier time in Brazil as opposed to where I was from. That wasn't always the case.
Now, he had issued an apology because in some of his videos, he was going around asking questions sexual in nature. And in one particular video, he was talking to this young lady and asking if she would sleep with him on the first time meeting him and everything like that. Okay. And the reason why he was asking that is he was trying to contrast and say how it is to meet women dating in the US. Now, Austin Holloman is young. He's young. He didn't have the same background as far as how I did coming up in the military, getting briefed what to do and what not to do. He did have mentors, older people that reached out to him because Austin Holloman's channel blew up. And it blew up primarily because he was featuring ladies and the like in his live stream, showing a lot of beautiful people across the world. Okay. And who's not going to be attracted to seeing those types of things? But what he was saying in his video, if you really analyze what he was talking about in general, is comparing. Oh man, I'm going to say the exact words that he said. I'm not going to say easy. How less restrictive or more freeing it is to just go out and have fun with somebody of the opposite gender, and it be you're having more of a good time versus how it is dating in the States. Okay. So we got somebody unadulterated truth. Shout out to you and said that this has been a very hot topic and various perspectives are interesting. So first of all, thank you for joining. Okay. A lot of other people had talked about this as well. I'm late to it. I initially said I wasn't going to, but I think that there's a misconception about the passport bros, and I want to at least give my perspective on it, as somebody that's been traveling since I was 18. Okay. So thank you for taking the time out of your evening to watch my live stream. I appreciate that. I would love to hear or read your thoughts as well. Okay. So Austin Holloman got in trouble for one of his videos that went viral. It was a YouTube short. I think he since pulled it. I'm not entirely too sure. But in it, he really didn't say anything overly wrong. But there were some feminist people, or one feminist popular woman in Brazil in general, that decided to highlight him and the Passport Bros movement, and saying that it's a bad thing for him to just say that all Brazilian women are easy. Okay.
Both American and women around the world are speaking out against the Passport Bros, arguing these guys are using their status to take advantage of women and even calling it a form of sex tourism and sex trafficking. Let's talk about it. Communications specialist Priscilla Pack and Rochelle Gemini both are here on The Factor Uncensored. We were supposed to do this last week. We're doing it this week. You have done a lot of research. When you think about and what you've heard about Passport Bros, your opinion on this so-called group?
Now, before they speak, when you're going to put yourself out there online, you have to understand that people are going to research who you are. So it's been discovered that this lady here has an OnlyFans in which she's selling salacious pictures of herself to buyers, right? And this is where I say it's not like it's not understood that if there's a commodity and a buyer, people are going to do it. I still think that it's interesting that people can get people to spend money on them online without actually meeting them in person. That's baffling to me, especially at the amount of free stuff that you could get just from scrolling on your cell phone. It's baffling to me. But let's hear what she says in her opinion.
Let me tell you, they weren't even on my radar. You brought it up to me, and then I saw it, and I was just like, oh, that's cute. You know, guys go and get their passports. My son just got his passport last week. He's 9. So that's cool. Passport brothers. That's what's up. Then I started doing the research, and I'm like, wait a minute. Because I grew up, with 2-parent household. My parents still happily married. I grew up in love. Some people grew up in survival mode, and maybe they just in a whole nother dimension of trying to find love or trying to find easy situations and everything. But at the same time, it was like, why do you have to put down the thing that you don't like in front of everybody just to get the thing that you do want? I don't care.
That being black.
Now, okay, so if you heard what she said, why do you have to put down the thing that you don't like in order to get the other thing? Man, let me ask y'all this. Do you think that people would spend, let's say, traveling from the US to the Philippines is about $1,300, and that's just for the flight? Do you think that if there were more marriageable people in the West, in the US, that you would have people traveling if they were going solely to find them a quote unquote girlfriend or a wife or just somebody to sleep with? Do you think that viably people would actively spend that kind of money just for that if what they were seeking was in their own backyard? I'm waiting. I really don't think so, but I could be wrong. If in your own backyard, the availability of, how do I say this without getting canceled? Quality people were there, you would not be traveling just for that. That's why I think people have this whole Passport Bros thing mixed up on. It's not just for that. And don't forget, YouTube, fair use, and Fox. I got asked to define backyard within a driving radius. I'll just say that. So where I live at is in Maryland. I'll just say that. I live in Maryland, and people call this area the DMV. And I want to say the D stands for Delaware, not DC. So Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and then DC. So that whole tri-state plus DC area. And here people will date and meet folks that are within a 2-hour driving limit, just because there's a lot of people around here. Okay, there's a lot of people around here. So folks may decide to date within the city that they live in, or travel up to 45 minutes or an hour and a half for a date. And if you're really looking for a monogamous long-term relationship, if the availability was more in your backyard, do you think people would be grabbing their passports and going just for that if the quality people were there? I'm making and stating the position that I don't think that there is enough quality out there. And that's one of the reasons that people are traveling. And Michelle, you're right. Delaware is irrelevant to us. Who actually goes to Delaware? Oh, the D is DC? Yo, I've been saying Delaware, Maryland, Virginia all this time when people ask me, what does DMV mean? Man, unless you've traveled all over the U.S. to meet women, you don't know that all women are the same and not marriage material. Interesting. That's something that I was going to talk about a little bit later on as well. When you look at the regions of how people are, I would say that the people that you date and meet culturally, even within the U.S., every sector in the U.S., the culture is just different. The South is different from the Midwest. The Midwest is different from California and Washington. And California, Texas, and Washington are all different from the Northeast section. And that's on all sides of the gender, okay? There are people that, like for myself, I'm ex-military. I'm a veteran. If you ask a veteran where they're from, you're going to get, well, I was born here, but I was stationed here, raised here, I spent more time here, and I've traveled here. Like, my car's registered in this state, my driver's license is from a whole other state. That's what you're going to get when you ask a military person. So I've literally been to all 50 states and used my eyeballs, I've seen how people are on the dating market in various parts of the country. So I'm somebody, in my opinion, that can speak to this kind of stuff. Okay? I'm somebody that can speak to this kind of stuff. And Michelle said that when it comes to stuff around the DMV area, I need to ask her. You know what? Bet. All right. So let's see what else this lady had to say.
Black women in America, putting them down for women who may be of color in another country.
Right. That want to be
maybe also submissive
to
them.
Exactly.
But also paid prostitution in many cases.
Okay. So there are other content creators that will share and show the receipts. And I think it's important that they do. I don't think it's all like, check out this girl who I've been dating and seeing, yada, yada. There's one guy in particular, Counselor Troy. Counselor Troy is a digital nomad. Shout out to him. And if you go to his Instagram page, he shares his dating experiences abroad. I want to say right now he's in Africa, or at least that's where he's showing some of his content. And he talked about how when he lands and he sets up a date, a lot of the times the ladies that he meet, they treat him. They take him out. Since it's their country or their homeland, they're showing him around. And getting him immersed into the culture and things of that nature. And there's a lot more 50-50 in a lot of these places, and guys are just simply reporting that the ladies are more feminine. Why is that? Why is it that people are saying that there's less feminine women in the US than there is overseas, and that you can get an abundance of feminine women that men are attracted to? There was a comment, and I'm going to see if I can bring this up here while the rest of this video play. If y'all have an answer to that and it's logical, put it in the chat.
And that's what they're covering up. And you can tell that by the way that, what's his name, Austin, was talking, because I saw the other videos of him going like, hey, you would have sexual intercourse with me tonight, right? And she's saying, yes. They about to really get a lick on him. That's what's really about to happen. Because I also saw some of the women from overseas saying, yeah, we're just trying to get a lick. You know, they also came out saying, we know these passport bros. They not new.
All right. And there's nothing new about that at all, too. Okay. If you go to some of these other countries, there's a perception that if you're somebody that's traveling in general to Brazil, to Thailand, to other countries, that you at least have some type of wealth about you. There's one content creator from the Philippines called the Filipina P. She does amazing out in the world content where she interviews her own people, and she talks about both the good, the bad, and everything in between. Her content is very objectionable. One of her last videos that I watched was her interviewing other Filipino people, asking them what do they consider rich. And the average answer for that, to the question, what do they consider rich? Most people said around anybody who earns around 2,000 a month, 2,000 US dollars is considered rich. 2,000 US dollars a month earned is considered rich to people in the Philippines. So to what she said about coming over there to get a lick, hey, look, I'm not going to disprove that either. She's right about that. If you're someone that goes over to another country seeking a wife, and the average income that people make over there is less than 1,200 US dollars a month, and you don't think that they know that you have enough money to at least travel to their country, that you might be somewhat wealthy, you're absolutely right that they're going to try to get a lick on you. But in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. If they can be honorable, which talking to people that have married people that I would consider foreigner, because I'm a US. So if you're somebody of another country, by my definition, you're the foreigner. To Filipino people, I'm a foreigner in their country. If most US to foreign relationships in certain countries, when you look at the statistics, there's less divorces coming out of those than there are divorces here in the States.
So essentially, they're chumps themselves.
Yes.
They're simply Johns on the streets of America.
They might be some that might be actually looking for love that can't find it maybe in America. But you didn't let some rotten apples into y'all group, and y'all need to call the ones out that's not doing it correctly. Because baby, we're not just in America. You can claim wherever you want to be anytime. I don't care. Get a passport. Go find your love. But at the same time, don't put down us just because you feel like you've had some rejection. Deal with rejection. Heal. Go do your thing. We don't care.
And
people have been saying that there aren't a lot of marriageable people in the US for a while. It's not just the passport bro movement that have been doing this. There's less and less men wanting to get looking for wives, and as they're looking around, they're just simply not seeing it here. This was way before the passport bros became a thing. All right, way before the passport bros became a thing. Let me get into some comments. Let's see. We got Unadulterated Truth said that we divorced in 2005. Feminist she worked with convinced her that she never got the credit she deserved for the program because I financed most of it. Oh, so it looks like there was some back and forth earlier here, and I totally missed it. Let me see if I can go back up and fit in here. Michelle asks, where do I fit in? Because I'm not like anyone you have ever met. Hey, look, Michelle, I'm going to say this very publicly. I know Michelle. Michelle and I are dating. Michelle is someone who is feminine. She has a lot of qualities that I think can make her a fantastic wife and all of that. So I'm going to say that publicly. This isn't anything that I would say privately or just to her. She knows how I think about that. She also knows your boy's not looking to get married. So there's that whole thing right there. I was married once. It left a sour taste in my mouth initially. And I put a hard line in the sand and said, never again. I don't see a benefit for it. So personally, I don't see a benefit for it. I can say that she isn't like the low quality stuff that you see around here. Like, for example, I'm just gonna say this, okay? There is in some of the communities when people are sharing tips and things about feminine ladies and stuff like that, one of the things that a man likes to hear, whatever you want. Hey, what would you like to do tonight? Whatever you want. What are some of the things like I don't know, call it an ego thing, whatever. It's men value respect. And when you look at how other ladies treat men overseas, by default, they're given respect. You don't have to earn it. And I think for the most part, men will give respect to other people and vice versa just by default. And that's where other foreign places have gotten it better than us. Okay, plain and simple. It's they give that respect early on. All right. So let's see. Oh man, there's a lot of comments. I may not be able to come back and hear this or read all of this. Let's see. The difference is their culture. My wife is a businesswoman, but she still takes pride in doing feminine things in our home. And look, I think most men, that's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. Michelle, for example, she does a lot with what she does in her job and in the community as well. Yet when her and I are together, she's about me, okay? And she gives me the attention that I desire. And in return, I give her the things that she desires. And it works. She also knows too that the moment that I even catch a hint of disrespect, I'm just doing this. I'm walking away. Plain and simple. I'm walking away because I can. I don't need to be with her. I enjoy being with her. Plain and simple. I enjoy being with her, right? So I think that there's a difference right there as well. Is when you travel overseas, for the most part, people are finding that they're spending time with people that enjoy to be with them. Maybe it's because when you're used to seeing your own people where you're from, and you get to a different place and everybody else looks exotic to you, that you find yourself, you want to be around that person. That could be it, right? Like if you're somebody that is a Black American in Maryland and you go down to the southern border of Texas where there's a lot more Hispanic people, you're the different person to them. Okay. If you're traveling over to the Philippines, you're the exotic person to them. And I'm not just saying exotic, like everybody's exotic to somebody else. So I'm not just trying to pinpoint and say that one place has more exotic people than the other. I'm just saying that different can be exotic to the eye of the beholder, plain and simple.
And of course, we're not talking about all individuals who may travel out of the country, but Priscilla, for those who may be taking advantage of women out there and then trying to humiliate black women in America. Your thoughts about that?
I think it's really, really sad. Like, I look at them and I almost want to pity them, but then I don't, because there's a level of ignorance that's deplorable. I'm go ahead and use that word today. I think that they are taking advantage, at least from what they project themselves to be as a group. They're taking advantage of gender gaps and economic opportunities that are not there in these other countries that are present for us in America, in the States, in Canada, in Scandinavia, all over the world, and not even thinking back to the history of why are women and people made to be so independent in this country today. I think there's so many factors that they shove to the side for their preferences and trying to deem it a movement, which is so disappointing to hear. The civil rights movement was a movement.
Facts.
You know, anti-apartheid movement was a movement. So I'm thinking of Passport Bros like
Passport Bros didn't call themselves a movement. Other people did. Plain and simple. Other people did. Okay. There's a unification involved when you hear like the Passport Bros, right? There's a certain thing of, oh, this is somebody that has the ability to travel. There is no mission statement of what it means to be a Passport Bros. We don't submit an application to be a Passport Bro. Okay. It's simply an online community in which people share tips about places that they travel to. Are there bad apples? Absolutely. There are bad apples faux show. And for the most part, the community tries to get those bad apples out the group. Okay. I like the fact that there is an online community that people can go to find how to move, right? And that when there's a bad actor, people try to get those.
This is a shame.
Out.
You could really take advantage of your opportunity to educate people on how to get a passport, to go overseas, travel the world, and to learn, and not just make it be about sex. And the fact that now you're putting this stigma on people and black people in America, that is literally mushing us down. I hate that I said mushing, couldn't find a better word right there.
Right.
But like bringing us down, right? They all know, they know. But what does that do for our perspective?
Some of them, not all of them, talk so badly about black women in America, saying you guys are too bossy, you're too much, you're not feminine enough for them.
I think that sounds a lot to me like insecurities and the inability to seek what you want with what you have, where you are. That's what I really think about that. It almost disgusts me and is borderline gaslighting to sit here and treat American women, American black women, and try to shut us down because we may be educated or have the ability to obtain certain finances and social status that we're not in other countries.
And you attract.
It's a shame.
What you put out there too.
It's a shame.
All right.
Like, don't put that on us. Yeah, don't put that on us.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. Still ahead on the.
All right. So that was Fox 26.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. As we mentioned,
The Factor Uncensored, hosted by Isaiah Factor. And there was one thing that I wanted to highlight as well, and then I'm going to read the comments and close the stream. I went a lot longer than I wanted to today, but the chat was active. I see that I've got a lot of viewers as well. So I appreciate everybody that came and hung out with me. All right. This was an article from YouGov.com, which is weird to say, YouGov America. The Economist had these stats, and these stats are from 2021. These are the only ones that I could quickly find before the live stream. If you look at the household of people that do have passports from 2021, under 50K, 54% are saying that they've never had a passport. Okay. 17% of people that make under 50,000 are saying that they have an expired passport, and then only 21% of people even have a valid passport for travel that make under 50K. And look, if you're making under 50K here in the US, y'all know that 50K, depending on where you live, may not be enough. But when you jump to the next household income, which is 50 to 100,000, 29%, so less than about what's this, 29, 39, 49, 24% less people have never had a passport because it's more affordable to travel. It goes from 21% to 44%, and then to people making over 100K, it's 64%. So 64% of people do have a valid passport and are likely to travel because they can afford to. And only 18% have said that they've never had a passport. So I wanted to show these stats as well, because part of traveling is a sign of you having the funds to be able to do it internationally. Okay. Now, I wanted to bring this comment up here and I started. Thank you, Unadulterated Truth, for this one. Unadulterated Truth said, it is so incredibly easy to meet women in Brazil. You don't need designer clothes, expensive jewelry, a high-end car, etc. If you try to start a convo, even with the language gap, most will talk to you. And that's what people are also saying too, right? You can essentially cold approach people that you may be interested in. And if they're interested in you, they will talk to you. If you try to do that here in the States on a cold approach, I'd be interested to say that you come up in a t-shirt and some basketball shorts and try that mess in the US. And I say that mess because that's how they would say it to you. And you're not going to get anywhere. Plain and simple, you won't get anywhere. I'd say with 80% of the people, you're just not going to get anywhere. Whereas if you go to Brazil, you go to Thailand or the Philippines or whatnot, and you're in a t-shirt, a do-rag, and some basketball shorts, and you approach somebody, it flips. About 80% of those that are single will talk with you, even if it's just to have a friendly conversation with you and not really look at anything on the romance tip. It's just simply, you'll find people more agreeable is what I'm trying to say. There's less agreeable people here in the US, and cold approach game is something that you just can't do. Plain and simple, you just can't do. So I'm glad that you highlighted that and that you said that. And I don't want to share this on the screen, but my brother was having a conversation, and this other Air Force cat that I know who's from my hometown, he said the following: people who haven't really traveled the world can't seem to understand the dynamics of how men and women respond to each other. And this was a conversation about Andrew Tate. All right. And he said, while Andrew Tate's views are a bit extreme, he can see where he's coming from. There's a night and day difference with men and women and how they talk and relate to each other here in the US versus Spain, Portugal, Germany, Turkey, and even Honduras. Just some of the places that he's been, and that it's quite interesting. And he's right. First, you have to go and travel to these places just to see how it is firsthand, the differences. It's hard to explain. It's hard to even, as the Passport Bros community shares into their various groups, instances, right? Because they'll post like alerts, or some people say, hey man, I found my way. On those type of posts, you'll get a lot of congratulations and people bigging up the men that choose to share that kind of stuff. And you got some of the people that they do more travel and culture and they share that. The one thing that I will say is interesting is this: anytime that the ladies are talked about, that's the more interactive posts that do happen there. Okay, take that for what it is. If I were to go and share pictures of ladies that I've been with, you'll have the haters, obviously, but then you'll have a lot of people like liking the post and things like that. Versus if I go in and I talk about some of the temples that I visited in Thailand and the culture and the food and stuff, it'll get less interactions. I understand that. As somebody that does digital content, I get what people will respond to and what people won't respond to. But for the most part, you do have a good percentage of people that the travel for them is to open up their eyes and see the world. That's why I kind of have a relaxed viewpoint on things, is I've literally been around the world, several times. And I've seen how people are. All right. Let's see. Let's take a look at the comments here, and then I'm going to close out the stream for today. First of all, thanks for the people that have came in and rocked with me for almost an hour. Normally, my vlogs on Tuesdays are typically around 20 to 30 minutes. But in this case, I had a lot to say. Y'all had a lot to say. So thank y'all for popping up and rocking with me. Let's see. Unadulterated Truth said most of the Passport Brother conversations were not about American women. They were about women listening in and were upset with the discussions that they were hearing, it was eavesdropping and not bashing. Yes, that was another thing that I forgot to talk about, unadulterated truth. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of the things that were being discussed were not bashing. It was being critical of something, okay? You can be critical of what you're observing and stating what's going on with what you're seeing, and it's not bashing, okay? And what's interesting is this, right? Oh man, I'm so glad that you brought this up. Is yes, guys were in the group saying how they were having difficulty dating in general, and they were sharing their experiences with how it was. So, and these were people that, you know, various looks, various income levels. Some knew how to talk, others didn't, right? You can kind of go in and tell that there's a hodgepodge of people, but even the successful ones that hit the 6 6s, so to speak, we're still like saying, like, man, like dating in the US or just meeting people of the opposite sex in general is a lot harder than it is when you go to some of these other places. And they would share some of their experiences, and you would have other people like, yeah, I've had similar experiences as well, but they weren't bashing, they were being critical. But the thing is it's hard to be critical of the opposite gender and not catch flack for it. That needs to stop. That needs to stop. I don't condone bashing in general. You will never get on here and hear me bash anybody. Never is a strong word. I might want to walk that back a bit. You will highly likely not catch me coming on here bashing anybody. It's not something that I do, but I will be critical. I will absolutely be critical. All right. Like, to be critical of Austin Holloman, he was doing a little bit too much. I would have counseled him and mentored him on things maybe to not post, maybe put privately, as he does have his own community of people that follow him just to see his exploits. But the young dude's 23 years old. I would expect him to screw up, plain and simple, versus the guy Zoom to Thailand, Richie Mack. If you go and check out his channel, Zoom to Thailand, Richie Mack is in his 40s, I believe. He's a lot older. The way he presents information is almost similar to Austin Holloman stuff, yet Richie Mack does it in a way that you rock with him because he's older, he's well-traveled, he's a lot more seasoned, he's been an actor, so he knows how to convey information in a way that's not going to get him canceled, essentially. All right? So you can see the contrast, primarily in my opinion, and a lot of the contrast is because of age, plain and simple. Plain and simple. It's just the maturity and understanding how people are going to react to certain things. I knew that things were going to end with Austin Holloman and his time in Brazil, because the moment that you start doing a lot of content featuring women, essentially, you're going to catch flack depending on how it's presented. Most people, they want to handle women with kid gloves. I don't do that. You're a human, I'm a human. I'm not going to handle you with kid gloves. Okay? But I also understand what would happen if I were to be overly critical of the ladies. You're going to have people coming here, oh, your beard, Dusty. You know, it don't connect. All right? You're 5'8". Who are you to talk about? I know what the conversation is going to go like. So it is what it is. All right? Man, these comments are flying in. Let's see. Let me scroll down through here. Michelle said that to Ricky Webster, who am I kidding? I'll probably start some good trouble, especially considering the purpose of her trip down south. Hey, I told Michelle that people in the South talk a whole lot slower. Okay, I've hid my Southern accent, but sometimes if I'm talking and I get back home, you're likely to hear it. All right. That's not how I talk, but that's how people in the South talk. Okay. And look, Michelle, it sucks that you're a vegan. There is some good Southern vegan places that you're likely to find. I'm curious if the Southern style vegan food tastes better than the DMV vegan food that you've had. Let me know. Okay. All right. Let's see. I like the back and forth that's been happening in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Michelle said the actual King Smith, but like I said, to some women, it's the same thing. Yes, that's ignorance on their end, but that's where the issue begins. And Pete got jokes talking about I'm 4'8". That is all right. My pops is in the building. Shout out to my dad, Larry Smith. That is my father, y'all. He pops in and checks in on my live streams from time to time, and I appreciate him for doing that. Okay. Oh, and Pete, I forgot your comment up here. You said it is also very disrespectful to brag about how many women you've been with. Yeah, look, people that do that in general, I don't understand it. Why you want to be like, yeah, man, I be running through all these Thai women, yada yada. Yeah, stop. Do not do that. In closing, people have the talk around the Passport Bros all wrong. The Passport Bros is essentially a community of men that shares tips. The great part about it is this: as a Black American male myself who has traveled, the amount of people that come into the group that haven't traveled, that are just seeking information from other people that look like them, that's a positive thing. That is a positive thing. I don't see the issue with that. Are there bad actors? Yes. Are there people that put out misinformation or say the wrong thing representing the Passport Bros? That happens in every big group. The Passport Bros groups have exploded because of the good information and the good things that have came out of it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Okay? It is people showcasing that there is not a mystique to traveling to other places. As long as you respect the culture, the people will embrace you. They will embrace you. I traveled to one place, got twisted. This is when I was younger and was drinking. I woke up in somebody else's home, like, where am I? Here's where it got good, though. After I woke up and everybody else kind of got up, they welcomed me. They said, hey, man, we had fun with you last night. I didn't remember much about the night. And asked me if I wanted breakfast. Hungry? They made some crepes, which I had never had crepes before. So it was my first time having crepes. I forget the country that crepes is known for. But it was my first time having crepes, orange juice, fresh vegetables, all that jazz. And they drove me back to the hotel that I was staying at. Okay. And that was me as an American in a foreign country. But I respected their customs and cultures, and I got treated like family. And because of Facebook, I'm actually still friends with them people. Okay. So look, yeah, France. Crepes are known for France. I would have said Italy. All right. So if people want to give hate on the Passport Bros, just pay no attention to it. There's a lot of good that's being shared, a lot of information that's going on that's good in these groups. People sharing business tips, people starting businesses, people seeking mentors and learning about digital jobs and stuff that they might not have gotten into just from the conversations and things that sparked in the Passport Bros. I've been a Passport Bros member since before there were, I want to say, when I got into the group, there was less than 1,000 people. It's way more than that now. And there's offshoots too. But to a point that I was saying earlier, any large group, there's going to be bad apples. Like if you serve in the military, not all military people are honorable. You will run across dishonorable people. It is what it is. So you can't let the bad actors spoil the entire thing for a lot of good that's being done. There's mentoring, there's networking tips, there's a lot of travel tips and things that's being shared that's helping people travel, explore, and gain culture that's going to help open your eyes to how the rest of the world is. Okay? All right. So that's my video for today. And look, To the ladies that are mad that people are getting their passport and traveling overseas and not selecting them in their own backyard, here's my challenge. Here's my challenge. Are you ready? Are you ready? Be better. Be better. If you're better about how feminine you are, you're more agreeable, okay? You're not just out here because somebody's under 6 feet, or there's a dating story, and I'm gonna share this before I go. There's a dating story that I saw of somebody complaining. This person took them to a 4 or a 5-star rated restaurant, covered all of the food and everything like that. And I guess they both valeted, and she complained that at the end of this date, in which this person, she said that she enjoyed the conversation, he was handsome to her, all of this stuff. She wants to get on and complain that he didn't pay for her valet. Okay? Seriously, that's what you want to complain about. He was handsome. He picked a restaurant, went to, covered all of the food and everything, but because he didn't pay for your valet, you want to complain? That's not happening on dates with people that travel. You're getting a little bit more 50-50, or you're catching guys. Look, I'm telling you right now, if you're feminine, men will do whatever for you. They will do whatever for you. That's the secret. Be feminine. Be agreeable. There's a lot of hate around the word submissive. Take for that what you want. I'm not saying that I need a yes person. Michelle's not a yes woman. She's not a yes king. Everything you want, king. It's your way, king. No. She doesn't do that. And if she did, I wouldn't want her. Plain and simple. She's an intelligent person that's feminine, that can speak for herself. And I like her for it. If she wasn't, she wouldn't have my number. Matter of fact, I'd have her blocked. She might not even be able to view my streams if I didn't like her. And she was an angry person. All right. So that's all I have for today. Let me take a look at the comments before I leave. Let's see. Michelle said, our better doesn't include increased femininity. It should. It should. I'm telling you right now, it is night and day when you look at how feminine women are from these other places that people are traveling to versus ladies in the U.S., single ladies in the U.S. Okay. You said that it includes us doing the glow up and focusing on our own personal growth. It better include that femininity. I'm telling you. Everybody else in the chat that has the same chromosomes as me will agree, or most of them will. You said that that's what most black women do. When they're rejected, they grow themselves and then they switch teams. Hey, look. Oh, and you also say that you'll never be that person. Hey, as a parting note, I've dated everybody, or I haven't dated just within my own race, so to speak. I've dated Asian, I've dated Caucasian, I've dated the spectrum. All right. I think people should open up their eyes to other cultures, other customs, other group of people. A lot of people don't agree with that for biblical reasons, for cultural reasons, whatever. Okay. My 2 cents is explore, get out there. You'll likely find somebody that will work with you that may be outside of your own culture, your own race, that loves you for you. But if you want to sit and stay within your own race, your own culture, okay. All right. There's 50 million billion people in the world and you want to restrict yourself, that's on you. All right. So, Ricky, if you're still here, I have to find out your social media, man. We definitely would need to link up. Coach Gang in the building. I do go back to Anniston from time to time, man, and I got some peeps out in Birmingham as well. So I love to come out there and chop it up with you. To Michelle, to Unadulterated Truth, Pete, all of y'all that have commented, my folks, my dad, salute. I went way longer than I wanted to, and y'all stuck out there with me. All right. Be sure to hit that like button on your way out, and I appreciate y'all's hospitality. Let's close out the show. Peace.